Small Business Entrepreneurship Panel, Driving Economic Empowerment for the ANHPI Community. My name is Chiling Tong. I'm the President and CEO of a National Asian Pacific Islander, American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship, also called National ACE. We represent 2.65 million AAPI small business owners, and we have about 120 affiliate AAPI chambers and partners throughout the country. And welcome to our panel. And APAICS Legislative Summit is always the must-to-go event in DC. We try to arrange our event along with the APAICS event. Sometimes because the location it didn't work, but it's really the center, for this year. Also, for this particular panel, we focus on small business and entrepreneurship. During the past year, AAPI small business owners experienced two viruses. One is COVID, another one is anti-AAPI hate. So we want to use this panel to share, for subject matter experts, to share their perspective, how they work with their community. And they are all influencers in their industry. And I just want to introduce our panelists. The first one from my very, very far left is Susi Feltch-Malohifoʻou. She is the Chief Executive Officer, Pasifika Island Knowledge 2 Action Resources, Pasifika PAC Director. And the next one is Nayana RenuKumar, is a policy lead for international relations and human rights at the Airbnb. And the next one, Stephanie Hutch, is a co-chair of the Native Hawaiian Organization Association Legislative Committee, and also the founder, president, and CEO of Makai LLC, founder and chairwoman of the Kikoya Foundation. And the next one, the only gentleman in our panel, thank you for joining us. Alyn Toalepai is the president of the Pasifika Island Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for joining us, especially for Susi and Alyn. They are coming all the way from Utah, and Stephanie's from Boston. So thank you so much for joining with us. So we wish we can use this panel and hear from you, from the leader, and how you are supporting small businesses, entrepreneurship, and innovation of the AA and HPI community. So my first question is to introduce yourself and the work that your organization is doing to support the ANHPI small business, and also do the specific ANHPI community's cultural affect the work you do. So we start from Susi.
Thank you so much, Chiling. So PICTAR, Pacific Island Knowledge to Action Resources, is a 7-year-old nonprofit, 501c nonprofit in Salt Lake City, Utah. The Pacific Island Chamber is one of the programs that we provide. It is an ecosystem of programs, and so the first one we work is in domestic violence, sexual assault, direct services with peer support, community health workers, and case managers. Our second pillar is the Pacific Island Chamber of Commerce, and the third is Arts and Humanities, our BAAU group, which is Pacifica Enriching Arts of Utah. We wanted to ground our community youth into something that was strength-based. Pacific Islanders in Utah have the stereotype of either being a football player or a gangster. And I knew that when I moved there, I wasn't either one of those, and so arts and humanities is what we chose to do. I would say that in business, in the work that we do, it's about bridging. It's about bridging communities. It's about bridging businesses. We started out as the Pacific Island Business Alliance in just teaching our community to buy within each other. I know back in the 70s it was Back the Black, and I wanted to do kind of the same thing, but Back the Brown. And who's doing business in our community, and then bridging everyone to learn how to do business within each other. Keeping that dollar within our community, trying to make it jump 100 times within our community before it left our community. And so I think that's where we started, and Alyn can talk about our chamber.
Yeah, Ellen, go next. Talk about the chamber.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll bounce on this. So Alyn Toalepai, President of Pacific Island Chamber of Commerce, and I'm grateful for Susi being here as well. She's definitely provided that opportunity for myself to be here. So I am a business owner myself. I own Cocoa Creations Company. We are the manufacturers of the only cacao beans into a hot chocolate form. So basically like Swiss Miss. So KOKO, not to be misconstrued with COCO. KOKO Creations Company. And on that aspect, I went through a stroke in October. And the very first thing that I wanted to find out is my product killing me? So I went and looked, worked with my diabetic clinic and said, hey, check out these, my nutritional facts, make sure that it's set. Because we all know some nutritional facts are just on paper. But I wanted to make sure that it actually works. It helps our people. And so it does. When she was like, oh yeah, you can take that every day. So I took that objectivity and the ability to then see my business affecting our community in a positive light to also be something that we could do in the chamber. And that's what we've done, especially with our community, is to see what our businesses can provide for everyone else. That we don't just, couple our people together and just piggyback on each other, that we can actually provide that opportunity for everyone else. So that's what we've done in the chamber, is bring business to our businesses. Also providing the resources that are necessary for our businesses to then go out and be that global opportunity for everyone else. So that's what our chamber is, and we're grateful for PICTAR in allowing us for doing that.
Ellen, thank you. Share the perspective from PI, small business owners. And also, Susi, thank you for bringing our community together. How about Stephanie?
Yes, so aloha mai kako. My name's Stephanie Hutch. Thank you so much for having me here. I wear a lot of different hats, so I'll speak primarily on Kekoa Foundation, which is our nonprofit organization. So this organization falls under Small Business Administration, NHO, Native Hawaiian organization. So we're chartered with supporting the Native Hawaiian community in a lot of different ways. It could be cultural preservation, language, STEM initiatives, sort of whatever we choose is the priority that we want to focus on. So for us, we chose STEM education and career development, pathway development, things like that. From a community perspective, in Hawaii specifically, we often see a disconnect between students and careers, particularly in the STEM field. My company, Makai, we do a lot of work in the technology sector, engineering focused on national security problems. There is a large defense market in Hawaii and the Pacific region, but we see a disconnect between students and those opportunities for jobs. So one of the things we're focused on is helping to connect dots and bridge those gaps. For example, last year, we brought 50 students from IA High School, which is one of the local high schools just near Pearl Ridge, Pearl Harbor. We brought them to a large technology summit, gave them the opportunity to walk the floor, see the robotic dogs, talk to Amazon, Oracle, all these really large companies. And the purpose of that was really exposure, just to show them that they don't have to fall victim to this brain drain that we often see in the islands, where really smart, motivated kids, people will leave and come to the mainland for better opportunities. There's a lot of factors that lead to that, but there are a lot of really great generational wealth creating jobs in the island. And so we're focused on just that first level of exposure and making sure that students can see the opportunities that are local in their community.
Thank you for the work. Nayana?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Nayana, policy lead with Airbnb. Airbnb is a global platform that helps travelers connect with unique accommodations and experiences across the world in more than 200 countries. And the way we see it, the support that Airbnb is able to offer to small businesses, and I'll specifically come to the AI NHPA community, mainly touches upon 3 areas. So one is definitely the primary area, which is our host. There are 4 million hosts on the platform. They are the backbone of Airbnb. And these are hosts who share a room in their home, or they share an entire home. And economically, you would see that they are a wide range, because there are first-time home buyers who are able to afford a mortgage. There are renters who are supplementing their the rent. And there are also a lot of individual entrepreneurs and also small business owners who are hosts on the platform. And the way we see it, to ensure that Airbnb is able to offer a diverse offering to the guest, we need to have a diverse representation of hosts on the platform as well. And of course, anyone can just go online and list on an Airbnb, but we feel that there are specific initiatives that are required to ensure that everyone who wants to be a host and succeed on the platform has a pathway to do that. And one way to do that is the Airbnb Entrepreneurship Academy that we have set up across the world in partnership with local organizations. And the idea is that historically underrepresented communities have a chance to be successful on the platform by getting all the tools, educational materials to understand how to be a host, how to connect with existing successful entrepreneurs, and understand how can you be successful. So specifically for the AI and HPI community, this year we are very excited to talk about the partnership with Cameo, the California Micro Business Entrepreneurship Network, and then also with the Asian Real Estate Association. And the idea is that we understand, specifically with the Real Estate Association, home ownership, if like there is this assumption that Asians have a really high ownership, home ownership. But if you look at the 100,000 to 150,000 income category, AAPI communities have the lowest home ownership across the country if you compare Black, Hispanic, and white populations. So what we believe is that our partnership with organizations like ARIA can actually help educate first-time home buyers about what is another way for you to also afford your first home and create intergenerational wealth. So this is one example of how we can create targeted initiatives to support the community. The other two areas that I just want to briefly touch upon is the supplier diversity efforts. So Airbnb has a goal of ensuring that by 2025, at least 20% of our business expenses are with diverse businesses. It's already at 14%. So these are minorities, women, LGBTQ plus communities, people with disabilities. And then the third piece that I also want to flag is that Airbnbs generally operate in ecosystems where guests are able to spend with local restaurants, cafes, and all the other small businesses. And we believe that this is another way to ensure that the earnings that our hosts make, the money that the guests spend beyond that, is actually staying in the local community. So just for example, in San Francisco, we have this partnership with the San Francisco Council District Merchants Association, where we take the host on a walk with merchants around the area to ensure that they're connected with the local businesses, and then they can recommend local businesses to guests when they visit. And we believe that a large part of this will also be AA and HPA communities in those specific cities. And just to finally, Chiling, to your point about the culture and how that impacts us, the employee resource groups at Airbnb is one major way in which the culture and the concerns, including the terrible pattern of violence over the last few years, have been really at the forefront of a lot of discussions within the company. They play a major role in ensuring that, like as part of Asian Heritage Month, we are spotlighting local businesses. But at the same time, we are doing the outreach to nonprofits. Like, for example, we donated about $500,000 to nonprofits working on combating anti-Asian hate. And there are a lot more that we can do. Like my Asian mom says that, we can always do better, and we are all looking forward to working with you to ensure that small business owners can be successful on the platform.
Thank you. We really appreciate cooperation like Airbnb has been working closely with small business and also with our community. I understand some of the corporate representatives here, Lisa La from McDonald's, has been working very closely to our community too. My next question, what are the major challenges prevent the success of ANHPI small business? Alyn, would you like to start it? And also, is there a way that your organization working to address these challenges?
Yeah, so one of the, there's two parts. So one of, the very first part is the inequality and the diversity as far as women. And so what we did was we built the Women's Executive Alliance, which brings all of our minority Pacific Island Polynesian women-owned businesses to the forefront. We know that there's a lot of businesses that men run, but behind the scenes are the women. So we wanted to make sure that we can help the women, strengthen them, bring the resources that are available for them. And so by making that platform available, then our women can gather and say, oh, I've been through this, I've been through that. And so we're bringing the mothers to then understand out of their stay-at-home mom that their business is valid, that they're valued. And so that's the part that we try to form, is then provide those resources for our mothers, our women, to then be successful on that platform for their home. Because we know that the strength of the businesses will affect positively in the family. And that's the biggest part, is how can we then support our side hustles, our businesses, whatever it is, to help pay the bills while we're still trying to make a living here in the United States. Especially in the Polynesian and Pacific Island community, the majority are immigrants. We came across with a hustle and bustle. So what does our culture then look like within the American society? We're very drowned out in the sense that they don't value the cultural aspect of things. And so we're taking the resources and saying, how are you making it culturally relevant for our people to understand? Why do we shut our doors for funerals? Because that person that died matters to us. It may not matter to you. You may have a representative that goes represent your group, but they matter in our community. We will shut the doors. Even if it says 9 to 5 open, we will shut it because we have a funeral to go to at noon. And so we're trying to create and sustain the value within our culture that it's more than just business. It's more than what you're trying to say it is. And on that aspect, we help in every avenue, whether it's health, education, but providing for that family, they can then provide for themselves. So that's what we've been trying to do, and how we get to that question.
Thank you, Alyn. Stephanie, can you talk about the challenges faced by the NHPI business community?
Sure. So I think AAPHI companies, small businesses face the same challenges that any entrepreneur running a small business face. Scaling challenges, access to capital, retaining customers, limited resources. All of those things are not anything we can avoid, right? From our community specifically, I mentioned the concept of brain drain, meaning that we have a lot of really smart, motivated people who tend to leave the islands because the opportunities aren't there. Oftentimes you'll see experts in a certain field become the small business owners that you want to see in the ecosystem. So if they're leaving the community for other opportunities, that inherently limits the potential growth of small businesses in the area. One of the things from the NHO Association perspective that we're working on is getting other organizations to come together and pool resources. We found that we are stronger together rather than trying to support other nonprofits and community partners individually. If we can come together, we can make a larger impact and make sure that we're not stepping over each other, but rather we're filling the holes or the pukas that are in our society, right? Brain drain, disconnect, pipeline, as far as awareness of what different opportunities are there. I'll say from a cultural perspective, when we think about government contracting, which is sort of where I come from in my lens, there's sort of a tough history between the Native Hawaiian community and the military. So there's certainly some conversations that need to happen between those two groups, and I'm happy to say that they are happening. There's one project in particular I'd like to share as an example. There's a fish pond that was discovered on a Navy housing base. Fish ponds are an indigenous method of farming found in Hawaii that helped feed the community, no waste, plenty of resources for everyone. So this historical site was found on a Navy base. Traditionally, the Navy would not allow any other community partners to access the space, but they had a really great advocate on the inside who actually opened up the area to the Hawaiian Civic Center and other community partners, and now are collaboratively restoring this really sacred place in a traditional way, honoring the Hawaiian culture, also being aware of the current circumstances with the Navy presence there. But it's just one really small example in a larger, very complicated relationship of how we can restore special sacred areas in a authentic way by collaborating and communicating.
Thank you. Thank you. Susi.
Three things come to mind. I think the first thing is the lack of ability to culturally translate, not a lack of ability, but to be able to culturally translate the things that we learn in education around business and applying it to our work life. I think the second thing is culturally, I'm of Tongan descent, is we don't like to borrow money. And so how do you scale a business if you aren't going to go and get a loan? That's impossible. So deciding whether you want to be a mom and pop and stay that route, because culturally it doesn't feel right to owe anybody any money, that's a decision that people have. And then the third is funding. We hear all the time about funding, and one of the things that come to mind is I've been sitting in meetings with the FDIC about the CDFIs, the Community Development Funds. And I don't know if anyone understands that those are great vehicles for businesses, small businesses, to get the funding, except for it's only applicable for Native Hawaiians that live in Hawaii and for the Pacific Islanders that live in the territories. There are more Native Hawaiians that live in the continental United States than there are in the islands, but we can't access that. And I'm a Pacific Islander from Tonga, and I'm way on the totem pole when it comes to America, so I can't even access that at all. And so the CDFI is a really important vehicle for ethnic communities. They are about to make some changes, along with the banking changes that are about to happen here in a little bit, to decide what are the other ethnicities that get to be counted in CDFI. So I think we have to do some policy work there to see how many there you're going to allow into CDFIs. But I think that's also an important piece that could help our ethnic communities. Again, this is something that America has put in place, but we can't access it, right? And there's so many of those things in our country, and the only way we're going to be able to make change is to do policy change for that.
Thank you. Susi, also following on that, I really appreciate your advocate for CDFI. And what are the opportunities and future possibility that our community should be excited about?
I wish there was a lot to be excited about when it comes to business. I think the fact that we're breathing and we're thriving together and that we are bridging the gaps between communities, we are stronger together. And, appreciate, I always say it's the big AA with the little PI. And, but we've got to learn to bridge and partner with people and learn. My experience here working with Chiling and the other organizations here is, of course, the Pacific Islanders want to split off and be our own, but we're not there yet. And so coming to places like this and networking and learning about who aligns with what we're working on is really valuable to our communities. And I get excited when I come to things like this because I always meet somebody new that's aligned with my values, with the work that we do. And I think we just have to continue to bridge those communities, and eventually the Pacific Islanders will be able to have, national coalitions and fill a room like this of Pacific Islanders. But until then, we're going to learn from those that will help us.
Thank you, Alyn.
Something I'm excited about is what Susi just alluded to, the possibility of seeing more Polynesians and Pacific Islanders gathered together on this type of platform. We're great at gathering. I can guarantee you put food at any table. We're the ones that bring the food because we know what brings our people. But after that fact is, okay, what then do we have to give other than just food and gathering? And so that's the point that I'm excited about with the Chamber and other associations and organizations, is what then can we bring to our people? We have always said that we're not allowed to be at a table because we don't feel we have a seat at that table. Well, screw that. Let's be the table, create the seats, and have you come and sit there. After you come and sit, now are our people ready to then partake of that meal that's at that seat? So that's what we're trying to do, is trying to get our people ready and say, hey, the resources are coming. Come have a seat. Let's do this. The bigger part of that is the database. We have absolutely no database proving that we are at a table. And so to say that we have a table and we have chairs, well, here's the data that supports it. This is how many Tongans we have. I'm of Samoan descent. This is how many Samoans we have. I was just at the White House yesterday to come to find out that the chef of the President of the United States is Samoan. She is a Navy soldier that's serving the President. We never knew that. But had we known, it would bring some energy and some inspiration for our children to then raise up and say, I can do that. I don't have to be a certain color. I can actually be myself. And so to prove and show that we can do that, anybody would be happy for that. That's exciting for any community.
Thank you. My last question is to Nayana and Stephanie. How can the government and private sector come together to better support these opportunities?
Speaking of being at the table, Alyn, I feel like the representation at the table and overall political representation for the community is really worrying, right? And we believe that this discussion is about small business owners, but until and unless we get political representation, there are not going to be policies that support the community. And there was a study from the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies which showed that across both the political parties, if you look at the top staff director positions, 41 of them, the top staff positions, 20 of them, not a single one are held by people who identify as AIPI or Middle Eastern, North African, or Native American. So there is something that we can do to address that, and the fellowships and internships that APAICS and others offer is a great way to do that. But we are in DC, which is a very expensive city, and one thing that we have been trying to do with APAICS and the Black Caucus and the Hispanic Caucus foundations is ensuring that when these fellows are coming to the city, can we offer them housing support so that they can find a temporary housing while they're trying to find their feet in the city, so that they can focus on their work and they can focus on what they are supposed to do. So this is one example of things that private sector and organizations working closely with the government can do. Like if this can be scaled up, if this is something that the federal government or others are able to take up, there is a lot more that private sector would be able to bring to the table.
Thank you, for being a voice for the diverse communities. Stephanie?
So one of the things I'm excited about is there's certainly a cultural renaissance happening in Hawaii right now. You hear Hawaiian language spoken publicly. It's being published in writing. Congressman Kaikahele speaking the Hawaiian language on the floor gives me goosebumps. When you consider the history that language was outlawed, by the government in our recent history. So things like that are really exciting. From a government perspective, I think the Small Business Administration has done a good job with the NHO program, the Native Hawaiian 8A program, to encourage Native Hawaiian business owners to work with the federal government, not just Department of Defense, but all of the federal agencies. It creates a clear, streamlined pathway for contracting. So I think that's very valuable. One of the things that we are advocating for with the NHO Association from a Hawaiian perspective is parity, meaning equal representation with Native American tribes and Alaskans. Currently, those groups have a higher contracting threshold than Hawaiians. There's no particular reason why that is, other than some political factors in our near past. But something like that, achieving parity across these indigenous groups and business owners would significantly help the economy there.
Thank you for sharing your perspective and also your work with government. I just want to conclude our panel here with one takeaway. So each one of you, if you just can give us a one word or one sentence, how you want to encourage our audience. But in the meantime, while you're thinking that, I want to see any questions from our audience. Okay.
Hi, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the Justice 40 opportunities that are out there, to give 40% of government grants to historically disadvantaged communities, and what you're doing in your organizations to help promote that within the AAPI and other minority communities.
Anybody want to take this question?
Stephanie.
Yeah.
So very candidly, I apologize, I'm not familiar with that particular initiative, but I can share from the NHOA perspective, we're actively engaged with the federal government and the state government as well, and also the Chamber of Commerce is actively trying to promote participation in grants such as that.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, Susi, what is your one sentence or one word you can encourage our audience for takeaway?
Representation is not liberation.
Thank you. Nayana?
I would say the model minority myth is a huge constraint on the community, and we all have to think about how to break that myth.
Thank you.
I would say the word kuleana, which in Hawaiian means responsibility, not only for yourself, but for your community in a sense of service.
Alyn?
Growing up, my grandparents had always said, putting in a hand, helping lift, will raise everyone together equally from where you stand. So from what I see up here is lift, learn, invest, forecast, and train. That's what we teach in the chamber.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much for you sharing with us. Thank you. Thank you. This concludes our program today. Thank you.